What's crappin'? Welcome to Under the Foreskin, a show dedicated to the happenings of the SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football League. My name is Kyle. I'm the head of football operations for the Potomac Pretenders, the voice of SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football, and of course, the co-commissioner was Sir Alex Odunchkin. Got a very special show for you today. I know I've been off for a few weeks, but really, here's how I'm going to explain it to you. Under the Foreskin week 1 was just a mic drop for me. Just stick your arm out, drop the mic. Couldn't get much better, so it just felt weird sitting down and doing like a normal, waiver wire Wednesday, trading block, picks, recap. So it was tough to sit down and go through everything again. But nevertheless, I'm here. And I'm sure some of you might have been asking, wow, that song really hit home on a lot of teams, but there was one team missing, and that was the Alaskan Pipeliners, the team of Seth Burgess. And at first I was kind of like, oh, wow, how did I forget Seth's team? I didn't even call him out in the week 1 song. And then I realized how irrelevant he always is and always will be. So I got a little montage clip here that I'm going to put together from the last time Seth and I had a run-in on some sort of electronic competition. So you can watch that now. All right, we're going to go through the first 3 weeks of SJU and Misfits Fantasy Football. We'll go through the standings, where everybody's sitting, who's been booming, who's been busting. We'll talk about the trades that have happened the last 3 weeks, some big-name players getting shipped to other squads, which is fun to see. And then we'll do picks this week. So here we go. Week 3 results. Actually, you know what? We're just gonna go down the standings. We're gonna go top to bottom. First up, Chernobyl Tin Whiskers, 3-0, off to a healthy start behind a healthy Arian Foster, well, at least for 2 of the weeks. And he synced up Noshan Moreno getting hurt with Lamar Miller's ascension into the running back number 1 position for the Dolphins. Those two have kind of led him to some solid victories. He's getting good play out of Emmanuel Sanders, Peyton Manning, all that. But really, those two have really helped him. Now, going forward, I do see some problems. Foster's got a tight hammy, missed last week. Be interested to see if he plays this week. Vereen is getting Belichick, which just seems to happen no matter who the Patriots running back is. And when Moreno comes back, does Lamar Miller all of a sudden slip back to irrelevance? We shall see. But Chernobyl off to a good start at 3-0. The Kipsy Pandas also at 3 in a row. I think I called this preseason, and really it's been a little bit of a muck and grind for the Pandas. They don't have anybody who's just running away with points every week. But they've had, big players perform at clutch times. Guys like Calvin and Vernon in week 1 pretty much solely won them. Freddie Jackson, week 3, had a nice game and was enough to get him through. He has to be concerned about Teach Me How to Dougie Martin. That guy is struggling right now. He's hurt again. I'm not going to say Bobby Rainey looks great, because that would be a lie, but that has to be a concern for the Pandas. The other 3-0 team, the Saskatoon Skin Flutes. It's hard to even talk about the Saskatoon Skin Flutes at 3-0 and what has been their recipe for success, because they pretty much have different players every week, it seems like. But Andy Luck has been their number 1 quarterback and the number 1 player in fantasy football so far. And Mike Wallace and Mike Wallace has been very good for what Dave paid for him. Dave does still have a little bit of a boom or a bust lineup, which is working out so far with Sproles and Reggie Bush and Deshaun Jackson. But it'll be interesting if all those guys shut down at once. Could that mean a loss for Dave? 4th place, the Buffalo Armadillos leading the pack of the 2-1 teams with the most points scored. Julio and Le'Veon looking like they're worth every penny that Jack paid for him. Bishop Sankey was a little expensive in the draft, around $30, I believe. But he seems to be turning the corner as of last week. It'll be interesting to see if that holds up. Not a lot of negatives on Jack's team. And if I could remake my pick for team that's going to win the league this year, I'd say it's the Buffalo Armadillos. Fifth place, Potomac Pretenders, my Potomac Pretenders, 2-1. Garcon, Crabtree, Steve Smith have been pretty solid for me and are trending up, I feel like. Obviously, losing Adrian Peterson for beating his child has hurt a lot this year. And then Josh Gordon, not getting the whole suspension, but he'll be back in week 12. So yeah, 10-game suspension. That hurts a little bit. But I guess I'm happy to see him back. I just got to muck and grind some tough, gritty wins here until the playoffs, and then hopefully Peterson might come back and Josh Gordon might come back. That is wishful thinking at his best, my friends. Drew Brees has been a little soft this year for me, too. Sixth place, also 2-1, the Alaskan Pipeliners. The new addition of DeMarco Murray looks good on his team. He did ship off Aaron Rodgers, who had a little bit of a slow start, but has also, helped propel him to 2 victories. Keenan Allen has been god-awful this year. 9 points through 3 games. What a surprise from a guy who was just an absolute stud last year. I think the Pipeliners, their record might be better than their team is. I hinted at their irrelevance earlier in the show, and I kind of feel that way about them. I think they're going to keep sliding, much like they did last year when they started 4-0 and then slid and missed the playoffs. Flint Tropics, also 2-1. Dez and Greg Olson have been the best 2 for the Tropics so far. Not a lot of flash on the team, just some steady players going for him so far. For Dinger, though, running back by committee has been a little tough. Listen to these running backs: McFadden, MJD, Bernard Pierce, Taliaferro, Mark Ingram, Ryan Matthews, Devonta Freeman. If my math serves me correct, that's 7 running backs, and not one of them worth a sandpaper HJ. Jesus. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out for the rest of the year. Waco Wrinklebeast, Antonio Brown, also looking like worth every penny that Joel paid for him. 49 points in 3 games. Martellus Bennett, 39 points in 3 games. Just playing awesome, both those players. Unfortunately for the Wrinklebeast, Chris Johnson hasn't snatched the New York Jets starting job, and Kendall Wright has been a little slow. Cam Newton missed week 1, but looks to be not far from his old self. I don't think his old self is really that great, but he manages to put some points up every week anyways. Crapstone Prairie Dogs, 1-2. Started the season with Marshawn Lynch. I believe he won week 1. Don't know, week 2 Lynch didn't score any touchdowns, and he lost, and then he traded Lynch away, I believe, for Matt Forte, who's had a little bit of a slow start. Also has Jimmy Graham, who's been okay, I'd say, through the first 3 weeks, and he did snag Asiata on the night that Adrian was charged or convicted or whatever for beating his poor little boy. For Crapstone, some of the negatives, I called it. Toby Gerhart sucks. Told you, Alex. Thanks for reminding me that I told you that for my show. Matt Forte and Demarius. Crapstone just traded for Demarius as well, which we'll go through at the trading block. But Demarius has been out to a slow start, and Forte has been a really slow start. So it'll be interesting to see if those two can turn it around and in turn Crapstone's season around. Baton Rouge Border Collies, 1-2. Acquiring Jeremy Macklin and Marshawn Lynch has been huge for the Border Collies. They really struggled through weeks 1 and 2 and had a nice week 3. Foles has been solid all 3 weeks, so he's got to feel good about Foles, especially at the price he paid in the draft. Larry Fitzgerald has been god-awful. Cruz not far behind Fitz, with the exception of last week's game. So it'll be interesting to watch him tonight on Thursday Night Football and how he does against the Giants' just hideous secondary. 11th place, Duluth Draft Dodgers, 1-2. Matty Icy, hot out of the gates. See what I did there? Alfred Morris has been solid. Well, LaShawn McCoy has been a little slow, a lot like a lot of the top 5 running backs. He's been really, really slow. Roddy White was healthy when Adam left work and hurt when the game started, so he got a big donut for him last week. So thanks for not checking on that A-bomb. I appreciate it. And T-Rich has been pretty much as expected, just a crusty blood fart. 12th place, Sioux City Smugglers, leading the way of the 0-3 teams. Go figure, Sioux City 0-3. Gio Bernard, Calvin Benjamin have been stars for him. I don't know if they've been in the Sioux City lineup very much, especially Calvin Benjamin. Gio obviously has. But they've been stars, and he recently acquired Rashad Jennings from the, I always want to say Tallahassee Trouser Snakes, but the Saskatoon Skin Flutes now. So he's got Gio Jennings and Calvin Benjamin. They're going to have to kind of lead his way because AJ Green's off to a little bit of a slow start. He hurt his foot that one game and got 0 points. RG3 seems to be done for the season, possibly, and Joik Bell is a little slow out of the chute as well. Next up at 0-3, the Gnawbone Butte Pirates. A couple misfits hanging out at the bottom. DeMarco Murray has been a stud for Zach so far. Unfortunately, it hasn't turned into a single W. So he traded him away for big gay Aaron Rodgers. Way to go, Zach. Brandon Marshall has been a little bit of a negative for Zach, actually, because he had him on the bench when he scored 3 touchdowns. Not blaming Zach for that because a lot of people thought he wasn't going to play, but that had to hurt watching him catch 3 touchdowns on a bench, and I believe it would have won him that week. Ben Tate's been injured. That hasn't helped Gnawbone at all either. Last but certainly least, the Hollywood Hotties, my preseason favorite to win the league. Geez, it's been ugly. I guess you can take positives. Stephen Ridley had a good game against the Vikings. Russell Wilson was pretty good, pretty solid, but he was recently dealt for Jay Cutler. Really a lot of negatives for the Hotties. Eddie Lacy, 10 points in 3 games. Zach Stacy's been slow. Demarius Thomas, Percy Harvin, both have been a little slow out of the gate. So tough start to the year for the Hollywood Hotties. They got a lot of buys this week, so it might be 0-4 for the Hotties, and they're going to have to put the pedal to the metal, as they say, and try to win some games. So let's go through some trades. We'll kind of start as far back as I think we need to. Torrey Smith, Maurice Jones-Drew were traded to the Flint Tropics from the Baton Rouge Border Collies for Steven Jackson and Deshaun Jackson. I'd say right now it looks like the Border Collies are getting the better end of that deal, as Deshaun has looked better than Torrey, and Steven has looked better than Maurice because Maurice hurt his hand. Next up, same day actually, the Baton Rouge Border Collies acquired Jeremy Macklin and Quan Bolden for Deshaun Jackson and Denarius Moore. Macklin looking probably a little bit stronger than Jackson, actually a lot stronger than Jackson. Macklin, one of the only players to score 3 touchdowns in 3 games this year. So that's looking good for the Border Collies too. Duluth Draft Dodgers acquired Roddy White, Danny Woodhead, Jarrett Boykin, and they traded away Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins. And if my memory serves me right, Cobb and Watkins would have won the Dodgers the game that week, and Danny Woodhead ended up breaking his leg or his foot into a million different pieces. He's out for the year. Jarrett Boykin looks like a destined for the pine, and Roddy White, he's Roddy White. He'll be fine. I like Roddy White, but I think Crapstone got the better end of that deal so far. Saskatoon Skin Flutes finally on the trading block here after 3 trades. Jordan Cameron and Reggie Bush were sent to Saskatoon for Rashad Jennings and Dennis Pitta, which were shipped to the Sioux City Smugglers. Reggie Bush seemed to turn on the Jets a little bit. Cameron's been hurt, but Pitta went out with a bad hip injury, and Jennings is looking like a top 12 running back. So I'm going to say the Smugglers have the better of that deal as of right now. Boy, but with Jordan Cameron comes back and Pitta out, I think, might be an advantage Skin Flutes. Big name player trade. Marshawn Lynch was sent to the Border Collies, as I said earlier, from Crapstone in exchange for Matt Forte. Obviously, Lynch off to a very hot start. Forte off to not so hot of a start. Just this week, the Alaskan Pipeliners acquired DeMarco Murray and Tom Brady, and they sent away Andre Ellington, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Forsett, who was a $76 waiver wire pickup for Seth and his Alaskan Pipeliners. Hard to say how that trade shakes out. I want to say I like it better for Gnawbone, but I understand why both teams made that deal. Hollywood Hotties, with some bye week blues, had to get some players for this week, so they acquired